Before we start the video, I would like to talk about the fact that I finally found a recipe book about how to use spices, and I think it's about time. I'm sorry. The internet graced me with this joke today and I had to pass it on to you. Hi everyone, I'm Paulina, welcome to my channel. Here we laugh, we cry, we complain about books from classics to YA. I make short study guides that you can use because they're only 15 minutes, you can just quickly revise them before an exam, and I also make other random bookish content that hopefully you find interesting because I find it interesting, and if you find it interesting, you know what to do. Basically, I, for lack of a better word, stalked Cari's Goodreads and read some of her favorite books. 3, not all of them because, you know, exams. I really love Cari for her reading logs, so I tried to film some of my own, and as much as I love editing videos, if you know me then you also know that I love talking about books and giving spoiler-free reviews, and I don't have enough footage for me to talk about all of that while aesthetically filming flowers. I have some for the final books though when the weather was nice. All reviews are spoiler-free, let's go. The first book I read was Know My Name by Chanel Miller. I've been seeing this one on Bookstagram a lot, and I was honestly hesitant to start it, not only because of the attention it was getting, but of course because it's such a hard subject. Trigger warning: sexual assault. I'd like to warn you that this is a topic that I'm going to be discussing quite a lot, though I know that this is a sensitive subject, especially if you yourself have encountered it or have friends or family or just anyone you know that has encountered it, so please feel free to skip over to the other books I read for the video. Know My Name is a memoir about what it was like for Chanel to go through the process of spending years in a court case fighting. She had so many witnesses. She was found behind a dumpster unconscious. He was literally on top of her. 2 people pulled him off, and yet of course it wasn't as simple just to have him convicted. He's not declared guilty without her having to fight, and her friends and family having to fight, and random strangers having to fight, and the case just isn't that simple, and it's a long and difficult struggle. She talks about how she's forced to recount the events of a night that she wished has never happened. It's enlightening not only because it talks about sexual assault, about rape kits, and how people blame victims, and how if she was drunk people don't believe her. And it's not even the fact that she wasn't the rapist and she wasn't the one who raped herself. It was Brock Turner. He did it to her, but she was under the influence of alcohol, so people don't believe her. It's not only about the case, it's about what it's like to go through the process. It really provides some insight in how to deal with this terrible event, and Chanel, she, with her brilliant writing, she also talks about how she deals with it later on. So her experience with Brock Turner behind bars, it doesn't just magically stop. If she sees a movie where a woman gets raped, she feels bad, and years after she still has panic attacks, and it's really hard for her to deal with this. Could really feel her struggle through the pages of the book, and I had to put it away several times just because it was getting really hard, and honestly I was crying in some moments because it was just such a difficult thing to read, especially with the vivid detail. So her victim statement was published on BuzzFeed and it has over 18 million views. I will link the links. Link it in the description box, and I highly recommend you check it out. Maybe you won't get the book for whatever reasons, you don't have it in the library, I don't know, but the article is free, it's online, and I seriously recommend that you actually take the time and check it out. I think this is one of the best reads of my life, no exaggeration. Chanel is just such a powerful writer, and she has such a distinctive voice, and it's a very necessary scream. I think it's a must read. She does absolute wonders, and I'm so proud of her for reclaiming her identity and really speaking out and telling the world what it was like. This was always going to be an important read, a powerful one, and a necessary one. But what really adds to it is the fact that Chanel is just such an incredible writer. Her writing style, it's absolutely incredible, and her work has motivated so many people to speak out about their assault and their own experiences, and it helped so many people to deal with their own trauma. And again, just as I've said, it's a really educational read, not only to find out more about the Brock Turner case, it's been cited in a lot of textbooks, in a lot of books. It's really famous, but just to read more about what it was like. So, final comments on the cover art. I just want to take a moment. I took it from Wikipedia, not the most trustworthy website, but people have fact checked it. So the cover art is based on kintsugi. I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. Basically, it's the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with powdered gold, emphasizing the cracks rather than covering them up. Okay, I think we see the importance here. I could do a whole video talking about just how incredible, like, the meaning that someone put and the attention that they put into making this cover. I don't know if it was actually Chanel or it was publishing, but whoever did it, detail is just wow. But we do have some comments on mortality to make in the next book. Will my cat eat my eyeballs? And other questions about dead bodies. Oh, am I asking you? No, but tiny mortals are asking Caitlin Doty again. Trigger warning, death and dealing with it, and we're going to get like into it, okay? So skip to the last book if you can't deal with it. Again, sorry, this video has a lot of like content like that. I've linked a link. I have to stop saying I've linked a link, like it annoys me so much. I've linked a website in the description box where you can check the trigger warnings for each book. So please take the time and check and read accordingly. I read Caitlin's memoir about her work in a crematorium like a year ago. If you've been following me since then, first of all, thank you. But yeah, you know then how much I've talked about this book. Caitlin talks about the intensity of her job. Like, she has to confront mortality on a day-to-day basis. And it's not just that she's confronting it, it's also the fact that she's like mopping the floor, burning the dead bodies, you know, like really handling those corpses over there. She also has to face people who are dealing with grief, and she talks a lot about how hard it is for people to like confront their own mortality. And you know, it was hard for her too, but now she's used to it and she can deal with it. This confident, stable feeling was available to anyone, so she means this like acceptance. And it would be possible if society could overcome the burden of superstition. So, will my cat eat my eyeballs is a bit different from smoke gets in your eyes and other lessons from the crematorium. I'm so sorry, I can't speak today. It's for children, and it's basically just like one-page short like chapters answering questions about death. Okay, I think that's pretty self-explanatory, so let's talk a bit about what I thought. So I gave this one 4 stars. It wasn't like Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, where that one was just like 5 stars without hesitation. But again, a pretty enlightening book, more and more facts to add to my growing collection of morbid little facts that I'm probably not going to need, but are very useful to know for what comes next. Okay, probably shouldn't have said that. Next, as in not like right now next, I'm okay, but like next as in, you know, after. Okay, one of the questions was, for example, pets look like if they're dead and they've been like dug up, you know? So the answer is it really depends. If they were near the surface, they're probably more decomposed. If they're a bit deeper, then they're not. Okay, I really don't want to answer all of the questions and affect the sales of the book, but I'll just give you like a couple. If I eat a bag of popcorn before going to bed, wait, I did not just use a euphemism for death after I said that I would like address death. Please, if I eat a bag of popcorn before getting cremated, will the people in the crematorium get a nice, you know, buttery surprise? Butter, BTS, stream? Okay, that's a crazy question. And I was like, really? And then Caitlin was like, yep, I'll answer. And then, yeah, that's a whole other thing. And it's like, will my hair grow if I'm dead and I'm in a coffin? Or can I give my grandma a Viking style funeral? It's like this kind of thing. Fabulous questions, and just also like really funny to read from Tiny Mortals. Also like, what a great name, Tiny Mortals. Like, I don't know why I find that so funny, but I do. So Tiny Mortals, right? Here's a video of my brother laughing. That's really random. You find out a whole lot of useful information. Probably not, but is it interesting? Yes, and it's funny, and there's dad jokes, and you know what? it's cool. Like, it's for kids, the language is simple, the illustrations are there. I'm just gonna display the illustrations right now. I mean, they're gorgeous, right? It would be weird to hang them up on my wall, right? It would probably freak guests out, right? Not a good thing to put on your college application. Probably wouldn't match my nice foxy wallpaper and like female empowerment posters from Hamilton. Well, I think we agree. Of course I'm hanging them up, like, blah. Let me get my printer. I'm not technically a kid. I mean, if you're like 70, maybe I am. No, the jokes are aimed for kids. I thought they were pretty funny. That's because this is kind of my sense of humor. Like, you know the puns I do at the start of my videos? Just watch that for a good understanding. Yeah, whatever. People in the reviews of this book, they were like,
I don't like the humor. The book is so bad.
Well, I'm sorry, Karen. Not everyone finds the things that you find funny. Maybe you didn't find it funny, but you know, kids, any mortals who this book is aimed at might find it funny. And that's totally not me being insecure about my sense of humor. I think a kid would find it funny. It's just a play on words. How can you not enjoy a play of words, especially a good play on words? You know, maybe they're just less scared of death now. Like, you know, as a kid, I was scared of death. Like, seriously, not even kidding or anything. I genuinely was. And I think if someone gave me this book, I don't know, like, it's just nice knowing, you know? But after reading this and the memoir, I have become a lot more chill and kind of just see it as a process of life. Like, you know, I'd rather not see people near me die, that's just for context. Reality that we do have to confront. So I gave this book 4 stars, and I just want to highlight that it is your choice whether to give it to your kids or not. Again, if they ask you the question, then give it. It's a light and fun read. Maybe they'll be less scared, but please, your choice. Don't come at me, be like, you told me to read this book and then my child read this book and now they're scared of death and now I have like a traumatized child on my hands. You do you, okay? Legendborn reading vlog. The tug between us pulls tight. Quote. I swear, if this is a mate situation, I'm going to be so done. Okay, I am so sorry. I am loving Legendborn so far, but the character, you keep making such stupid decisions. Look, okay, no spoilers, right? But there's a secret society, and inside the society there's a competition where there's highly trained like people competing to become higher ranking officials. She knows nothing about the world. She has no skills. She has no training. She goes to her newfound friend and she's like, hey, can you take me to the competition? He literally tells her it's a bad idea like 35 times. Look, I stand an independent young woman, but like, he's the one who actually knows about the world. He knows that there are people who had training for like 15 years. They're gonna destroy her. Unless, of course, it's YA, in which case she's just gonna randomly dip, knowing nothing about the competition, and then she's gonna emerge successful. Wow, fantastic. This is making me really angry. At least he had the common sense to tell her that she will likely get killed. And if the competition starts right now and she's gonna die, of course I'm gonna feel sorry for her, but like, why did you go into it in the first place? Okay, so I'm like 45% through maybe, and so far the information dump is really making my brain hurt. Like more than bio, and biology's kicking my ass. I'm planning on finishing Legendborn today, and I just made some notes yesterday evening, which I wanted to share. So first of all, this is what Bree said: throwing a temper tantrum, crossroads child, and both of Sal's dark brows fly up to his hairline. Direct hit. I know I should be mad at her because this is such a stupid move, but like, it's just really funny. You go, bestie. I've been counting down pages until the trial. It's written really, really well. And also, like, the riddles. There are riddles in this book, of course, academia. Apparently, I am worse at riddles than I thought. I'm really bad at this. Yeah, actually filming the reactions for once. The first book in a series. It's this new fantasy, like, debut series, and it's based around an Arthurian, like, you know, like Arthur and the Round Table retelling. Here's to Polina not knowing the original stories and reading retellings. wow, I can't even like clink glasses. I'm just holding nothing. This is very sad. Cheers to empty air. So not only does she have to deal with like, you know, figuring out the magic, she also has to deal with like racism, and yeah, she has to deal with the magic and not knowing anything other than the fact that she started seeing it when her mother died. In the cast, we have the brooding, attractive, powerful magician who hates her, who I really hope we have a slow enemies to lovers burn. Enemies to lovers, y'all. But like, we also have the nice guy, you know, the guy who actually genuinely cares about her. And you know, he tries to warn her when she's doing something stupid, like participating in a tournament knowing nothing, and you know, she tries to warn him about some things too, but he ignores her advice, so you know, balances out. Equality. Like cliche YA tropes, like the let's just dive into something and it's gonna magically work out. It's more magic than the magic system. But I do really appreciate it that we're starting to deal with more serious kind of themes in YA now, like racism, but not only that, but like, for example, I don't know, grief, and not the watered down grief type of thing, like, oh, my mother died, you know what, let me just like go slay a dragon, get into a love triangle, like save the world, overthrow the government, and forget about my problems and just like avoid them, and everything's gonna be okay because like YA and it's magic and we can't talk about grief and death or anything like that. And it's more like, oh, so I lost someone who I love, and now I do things that I wouldn't normally do, and now I don't talk to other family members. I'm really looking forward to the next release. The book ended on a cliffhanger, and Tracy Dean, she was like, you know what, I'm gonna hook you in with my incredible idea. The magic idea was actually really good, like minus the random like information dumps and the magic systems that were just there. It was pretty good. Well, in short, to wrap up this video, Cari can indeed read, and looks like we have similar tastes. We really liked all the books that she read, but she doesn't know that I exist, so that's a bit sad. Oof, so she might like hate the books that I love. We're just gonna pull a YA move here and ignore that little blemish in the gold coin of me enjoying the warm summer days, finishing exams, that's why I'm so tired, reading books, and just doing random videos for fun because I feel like it. Thanks so much for watching this video.